Welcome to Figure Feedback. My name is Jeremy, and in today's throwback video, I'm going to take us all the way back to the year 1993. That was a pretty good year. Chicago Bulls clinched their first three-peat victory. There weren't cell phones in our pockets all the time, and going to the mall was a pretty exciting thing to do, to hang out, get some good food, and also pick up some toys. And that's where these four guys came from. Now, this is a part of an old Toy Biz Deluxe line that my parents picked up for me in KB Toys. Now, back then there were some actual toy stores, dedicated toy stores that weren't just Toys R Us, and KB Toys was definitely high up on that list. And I remember being in that store, and it was somewhat small, a little bit cramped, but they had boxes upon boxes of these awesome Marvel figures, 10 inches tall, sitting there by the register, and my parents bought me 4 of these. I don't know if they were at the same time, but they did. Now, the thing about these figures is they came with some accessories, all of which I have lost. But the fact that my mom really was able to keep track of these and keep them after all of these years, we're talking 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago, is just incredible. I was over their house and around Thanksgiving, and I asked her, "Do you have any of my old toys just lying around in the closet or something?" And she said, "Yes, I know exactly where it is." She took me up to one of the spare rooms, brought down this box, and these 4 guys were just sitting inside of them. And I could not believe that she had kept track of them this entire time. So if you have parents that were basically the stewards of your toys, check to see if they still have some of your old stuff lying around, because you may be surprised. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about these guys here. Now, 1993 is when this Wolverine here was released. And yes, he did come with some claws, but I, of course, lost them over time. Over here, this Carnage, 1994. I also had a Venom that I think was probably around that same time frame that I, unfortunately, in my imagination and all the battles that these guys went through, I shattered him into multiple pieces due to a really nice, strong punch from Iron Man, which was released 1995. He also came with a cool big red gun, and then he also had something that you could put right up here. I think it was like a shoulder mounted gun or something that you could put right up there. And then last but not least, my favorite one out of the bunch was this silver Spider-Man that came with this silver Captain America like shield that just had Spider-Man's webbing all around it. And I always really dug this color of this silver and blue, and this Spider-Man was definitely my favorite out of the entire bunch here. And this just sort of reminds me of a time when playing with toys, it did not matter about how great is this articulation. It didn't matter what the paint apps were really like, as long as they were close enough. My little 7-8-year-old brain filled in all of the gaps in what is just a really simply articulated figure. For all of these, instantly had more articulation than an actual human being. But let's take a look at least one of these guys. Well, I guess we'll just do Wolverine, since he is the one that is the oldest out of the bunch. While we're talking about articulation, and things were just so simple back then, you know. The big thing about these figures is that, well, they were big, they're tall, you know, and we just got a single bend right there at the elbow, you know, very simple. He has a there's metal in there, like a metal peg or whatever, to keep that arm nice and stiff. And even after 30 plus years, it is still holding the position. His arm is not flippity floppity. It still holds good. And the same thing with his upper arm. Look at that. The whole thing is still nice and stiff and tight. I haven't done anything to this guy at all. Head just moves left and right. It does not move up and down. There is no crunch there at the waist. Sorry, I hit the mic. There's no crunch at the waist. There's no swivel at the waist. Hey, but that's pretty good though, right? Look at that. That's a pretty far distance for the leg. I do like that. That's very nice. And also it's a pretty decent knee bend. I do say so myself. Not bad. No articulation for the toes or anything. And that is pretty much it. The hands don't even swivel. But you know what I like about these old toys like this? And maybe it's not because they're old, but just the way that these toys were designed for kids and everything. And even as a collector, you can just do stuff like this. And then he just stands. You know, and you can do that with pretty much all of these guys. Just put them down and they stand just fine. Well, Spider-Man's having a little bit of a rough time, but boom, there you go. Minimum fuss. And then here's Iron Man. Boom, just stands up. I have such a hard time these days, not a horribly hard time, but hard enough, just trying to get figures to be in a very simple A pose. So kind of going back in time and just being able to plop these guys down. It's just nice to do. This Carnage looks so cool though. I mean, wow. This is one that I also had a lot of playtime with. He's a little bit looser than the other ones, but still they had that metal right there in their arm. So even his elbow bend is still nice and tight, you know, and look how high you can get that foot up. How cool is that? And then that knee bend. Oh, it is good and stiff. I must not have done this a whole lot, but you know, just the simple things like this. It made my imagination just run absolutely wild, and it became one of the staples of my childhood. I remember just hanging out in my room by the closet door, which is where these figures were kept, and just digging them out every now and then and just making them go to battle, just making them fight. There's some battle damage on this Spider-Man here, a little bit of dents and dings and paint, you know, that's on the silver, just from, you know, the fun that I had with these guys, you know. And even though there's getting these guys today, it's not difficult. These may be older toys, but they are not hard to get, and they are not expensive either. You can go on eBay and find one of these even boxed to this day for maybe like around $30-40. It's nothing crazy. So it's not like these are like rare, you know, hard to find gems that, you know, I'm just so happy that my mom happened to keep in boxes for me. But that's really not important. You know, this is not something that I did because I wanted to see if they were worth a whole bunch of money, or when I was younger, of course, you weren't thinking about any residual value from the toys. You just wanted to have fun and play with them. And as simple as these guys are, they withstood the test of time. And I don't know if that's credited to just the style that I played with my toys, or if that's just the quality of how things were back then, or if they're a little something, all of the above. But the important thing is I'm glad to have these guys in my home. And even my kids, my girls, they started to play with these as well. I had to kind of keep an eye on them a little bit, you know, because I'm like, the moment that I give these to you, you're just going to break them, aren't you? But they have not broken them. They have withstood their play. They withstood my play from 30 years ago, and who knows, if I play my cards right, maybe they will survive for another 30 years, because at this point I think that they're up for it. So really what I want to know is, do you have any of your super old toys from your childhood that are still lying around? And did your parents or guardians keep track of yours? I'm so happy that my mom kept these, but there's still a lot more toys that I played with when I was younger that I know are not around anymore, but I really wish they were. First thing that comes to my mind is a few of my Mighty Max toys. I had Mighty Max Skull Dungeon, that was my first one, and then for Christmas one year I begged for Skull Mountain, and they actually got me the Skull Mountain. I remember that huge box sitting in the basement laundry room way back in a place where I would never go because I was so afraid of spiders being back there, and that box was still there because they didn't throw it away for years. But that's no longer with us. But This right here, yeah, this is good enough. This is nostalgic, this is childhood, and it makes me happy. And like I said, my kids play with these too. So let me know down in the comments if you have anything like that lying around, or what are some toys that you did have that maybe you don't have now that you wish you still did, just so you can look at them and be like, man, that was pretty great. I got a little quest going on right now to try to get myself a 2XL robot at a pretty decent price so I can listen to some of those old choose your own adventure tapes, because that was something I spent a lot of time doing as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll speak to you soon.